looks like it's made it. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to introduce our speaker today, Serena Peters. Serena was born and raised in Sao Paulo, Brazil. She spent most of her life there up until she graduated college from Mackenzie University. Now, Sao Paulo, Brazil, if you don't know, is a city of 10 million people, or more than 20 million if you actually count the suburbs. According to Wikipedia, it's the largest city in the Americas and the 7th largest city in the world. So, huge urban environment she came from. She earned her degree in Bachelor of Architecture and Urban Planning, but her future did not lie in Brazil. Her mother had come to the United States to earn an advanced degree at Johns Hopkins and stayed here, and had worked on Serena pretty hard to relocate to the United States. So in college, she spent her vacation time here, but eventually she moved here, and she's been here for more than 13 years. Her mother actually still works at Johns Hopkins, where she got a degree from, and she's the director of, I have to cheat here, cytogenetics. Director of the cytogenetics lab at Hopkins, which has something to do with chromosomes, and that's probably about all I can tell you about it. Serena joined New Tech Group in 2010 and works in the firm's Hunt Valley, Maryland office. Now, I asked her, after 13 years in the United States, if there was something that she still had trouble getting used to, either about the country or the people, and I fully expected her to say that since she's been working with a group of people from Europe, she still hasn't come to understand why we end all our sentences in a why. Would you like to go to a meeting a while? Would you like to go to lunch a while? But no, what she actually said was that she cannot get used to the cold. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, the coldest month of the year is July, and the high is the frigid 71 degrees every day there. But she hasn't found a good way to hibernate yet since she's come to the United States. New Tech has certainly asked a lot of Serena because in the 4 years she's been with the firm, she's done more than 36 federal government projects. So she's been earning her advanced degree in bureaucracy. She's worked for at such places as the National Institutes of Health, Fort Eustis, Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the Quantico Marine Base, and NCIS more recently. Today, however, she's going to tell us about two other very interesting projects that she was involved with. They're filled with her blood, sweat, tears, and probably a lot of curse words in Portuguese that some of us wouldn't understand. It's the Gambari Hospital, which is located on the Afghan National Army base between Kabul and Jalalabad, that general area of Afghanistan, as well as the military training compound located in the Green Zone in Baghdad, Iraq. So with that, I'm excited to turn the program over to Serena Peters.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me here. Thanks for the kind words and for getting set up from there. I'll start off with the first question a lot of people have, and their regular question today is, how in the world do you guys know what medicine? And there's always an interesting story behind that, and our story is that somebody who's working in tech went to Washington, D.C., to work in a large engineering firm that has offices all around the world. And they have a contract with the Army Corps of Engineers who has asked them to also in Afghanistan. Even with talking to people in their staff, they didn't feel like they really had expertise and available people to do that project. So this guy who's working with tech, like, oh, I know who has the healthcare expertise and can help you guys out. And as they contacted us, he said, there's a couple catches though. We have 3 months to do this project. It's a large hospital. And we can probably deal with that. I just had the one question though. Are there any site visits included in this? I said, no. Okay, we're on. So we got started knowing there would be a lot of challenges, cultural challenges, of course, as well as logistics. How we're going to work on a project that we have human sites. We don't know who the users are. We know there will be things that we're going to encounter that we don't even know what they are yet because we has to be a different way of building, a different way of working out there. And we'll figure those out as we go in the 3 months that we're having to do the project. So we've got something that's a 3D image of the final hospital. We do all our projects in 3D, so it's easier for us to coordinate and make sure that things actually fit as designed. So that's the hospital. And we knew there was, in Afghanistan, we didn't really know where Jalabad was. We did a little research and found it was out near Pakistan, in very, very dry plateaus, close to the mountains out there. Got some pictures of that, I'll show you guys later. And the size of it, that was our first challenge. So it's about 7,000 square meters. I was a little used to that, but I got a lot of blank stares and I was like, okay, it's 7,000 square meters. And I thought, well, the easy way of getting around that is add a zero in the ballpark. So that's about 77,000 square feet. So that was a pretty large hospital. And we were told that it's the largest hospital, well, it will be one of the largest hospitals inside the whole one is completed. So I talked a little bit about our challenges. First one, of course, was the schedule. We really only had 3 months to do this, which is almost crazy when you think about the challenges of building a hospital. Communication with the client. Our client was Army Corps of Engineers, and most of the folks that we dealt with were in Afghanistan. We never got to actually meet them. And one of the guys that was working on this, he had been transferred to Japan, so we had some crazy conference call hours so that everybody could be together on the phone at the same time. We knew that communication was going to be an important thing on this project because of timing and because of local idiosyncrasies. So we had a conference call every week, and that really took care of it. That without the conference call every week, we probably wouldn't be able to get it done on time. Local construction expertise was another challenge we had. We started designing, based on our background, what we know here, and we had a roof system that had a plywood on the roof and some had a roofing on top, and they said, no plywood, forget plywood. It's not that we can get it here. Everything comes from Turkey, but it's a very sought after material, and we're just not going to do that. So find something else. They were told that they were good with concrete, masonry. They're really great masons, and they're great with the tile work, which is traditional in that area of the world. And we can do whatever we want with those, but just try to shy away from other more modern materials like metal, drywall, things like that. It's just going to become a little bit too difficult to do over here. So we did our best to use just concrete block, masonry, concrete structure. Try to stay away from metal as much as possible, except for the roofing system, so that we could use local labor and not have to bring people from far away. Another challenge was the metric system. We had to do everything with using millimeters. I had worked with millimeters before, doing projects in India and working in Brazil, but it was new for a lot of people in our office, and not only dimensionally, but also for engineering calculations. All of that had to be done in metric. So that was a little bit of an adjustment, but it all worked out. And our answer to just about every other question to the Army Corps of Engineers is, this is an austere building, keep that in mind. That means really that they had a big building, a little budget, and they really didn't have the expertise to do anything really, modern in that area of the world. So, don't bother putting in fancy modern, systems, because one, it's not going to get built right, and two, it's probably not going to get anything right if it ever gets built right. So, what we ended up with was a hospital with concrete floors, and for the most part, no ceilings, which is, you would never ever get a There's a map of the area. You can see where Afghanistan is, and you can see that Jalalabad is right near the border with Pakistan. Very dry area. And that's the beginnings of that army base. It's an Afghan army base. Very, very dry, very little greenery out there. With the mountains in the back, that's already Pakistan. See a few more pictures here. You just got a few for the area, very arid. We knew the general location of the building, but they never really told us exact location of the hospital. We weren't exactly sure if it was a safety thing or they just didn't really know where it was going to go. But that was a challenge for us because we tried to orient the building and windows and do our calculations for HVAC systems based on solar heat gain and just knowing exactly how the building's going to function, but not knowing where's east, west, and where would be south where we get most exposure. We just had to take the worst case scenario and run with it so we know that any way they place that building, it was going to work. They gave us a floor plan, which was great help because that usually takes quite a bit of time to put together. So they sort of knew what they wanted. They knew that some things didn't work. Next one I can show you. They knew that the middle area there, emergency and radiology and surgery, didn't quite work, and that's why they needed somebody with healthcare experience because there's a lot of potential for cross-contamination there. You don't want somebody coming in the emergency area, contaminating somebody that might be coming out of surgery. So we had to redesign that, pretty much the whole middle of the building, but we didn't change the perimeter of the building. So you see we have up on the top, we have an inpatient area. Let's go back to the floor plan. We have an inpatient area. And the bottom part, we had a women's clinic, which had to be actually separate from the rest of the hospital because, as much as possible, they try to keep women separate from the men. Of course, it's one of the cultural things we knew we were going to encounter. There are some services, of course, the surgery and radiology were shared because you can't duplicate everything for everybody. But we did have a little bit of separation there. So looking at the floor plan we got from them, we were looking at it, it's like, oh, this bathroom just look a little different from what we're used to. And we're looking at the symbols, and Lauren were working on the project with me saying, I don't think I've ever seen these symbols in AutoCAD. I think this is something different. So we did a little research, and we found that those toilets were not our regular Western toilets. Those were the Eastern toilets. And also known as the squat toilets. It's like, oh, we never designed one of those. So we did a little research and we found out what they look like, what their requirements are. And you see up on the top right is our construction detail report on how they're going to be set on the ground and how the stalls are going to work out. Also looking at the bathroom there, we saw a little area that something that sort of looked like a sink with some faucets, and it's called the ablution area. So okay, we got to research that one as well. And what we found is that in the Muslim tradition, hand washing, face washing, and feet washing is required before prayer. And that's called ablution, and that's what this area is for. So you can see outside of just about every mosque, there's an area where you can wash up before you go in and pray. So we had that in our bathrooms in the hospital as well, because for the 4 or 5 times a day, you have a call for prayer. Before that, you go in, you wash up, and then you're ready for prayer. We figure, okay, we're going through the bathrooms, we're done with our big surprises for now, right? And then we got to the kitchen, and there were a few other things that we've never seen this before. We see there's some chai boilers. It's like, okay, I know what that is. I've had some at Starbucks. They don't drink coffee. They drink chai. That's the chai break of the day. It's not a coffee break. And then we saw the propane stoves, and I was like, we're not exactly sure how this layout didn't look like a stove to us. So we actually got pictures from the Army Corps of Engineers on how the project, what they did, is they actually had this concrete platform with the very large burners built in the middle of it, which is meant to replicate the traditional way of cooking, where they would just dig a hole in the ground, build a fire, and have a big pot over that fire. And somebody would be walking around the platforms like they would be standing on the ground, just stirring the pots and doing their cooking that way. So very different. It was very interesting to see. It's like this is the modern version of a campfire type cooking. The project is under construction now. It's probably a little bit further along than the pictures that we have. They're probably getting to the interior now, and it'll probably be completed in a couple of months. We hope that it will be serving the local community well. This is meant for not only for the Afghan National Army, but it is really the only hospital in the area of the country, so it will serve the local population as well. After this project, we also got invited by that same firm in Washington, D.C. to help out with another project in Iraq. And they told us, like, well, this one will be a lot easier. I said, okay, let's see. This one was a very large military training compound in Baghdad, Iraq, in the Green Zone. Part of the project had started already, and we were on phase 2. And we'd be responsible for the military housing of that project. You see there's a large number of players involved, different people responsible for different buildings. We were doing like a dozen buildings at the same time. We had local people, we had us doing the housing, we had some other firms doing the cafeterias, and another architecture firm doing the office buildings. So that was a large team working together to get this project done. I put a little map there for us to situate ourselves. We tend to think of that area of the world as all very similar culture, and we tend to expect the same kind of challenges that we encounter in Afghanistan. But it turns out that Iraq was a lot easier to build. We had a little more freedom with the materials that we could use. They said that they're a lot closer to Turkey, where they get all the building materials from. Better skilled labor available. So we were a little more free to use other things. Like we could use a metal structure, for example. We didn't have to stay with masonry. We could get plywood over there, which was good to us because we could use a lot during construction. So it was very different for us. It was interesting to see the differences between the two countries. This is a picture of the whole site plan of the training compound. The buildings that we were responsible for are the ones in orange. Those are the 3 housing units. And that's pictures of phase 1 of the project. So still pretty dry, not as dry as Afghanistan. You see there are a couple trees there. And they were not really satisfied with the phase 1 project, of the project. So that's why they went in to hire different people to do phase 2, and that's where that team came in. So that's what they had for phase 1. Very basic building, no frills, just get it done simply and get our folks housed in there. So we designed something very efficient. You see, in color there is our corridors that goes to every room. We had a central bathroom in the lower corner. And then we have 3 different room types. One quad room that had 2 bunk beds in the room, so that's for the young guys in the Army. And then we had a double room that shared the 1 bathroom and the VIP room, which they had their own bathrooms. And we figured, okay, now we know, the bathrooms we're just going to do the Eastern style toilets, and we're told, especially for the high-rank officials, they see the regular toilet like you're used to. They don't want to use the Eastern toilet anymore. They don't want to use the spot toilet. It's seen as a sign of progress for them to use regular toilets. So we actually had both on this project. We had, you see those toilets there in the rooms, those are our usual toilets, our Western toilets, but the actual toilets in the common toilet rooms were still the Eastern style. The only little bit of fun design that we had was the entry canopy. They said, oh, you can do something a little more interesting there. So that's a little rendering of what we did. The rest of the building is a concrete faced and simple windows. And it's also under construction. You see there we have a metal structure. There's skilled labor, and it's probably also a couple months from being completed right now. So there's some pictures of the walls going up. And I feel like we had a couple interesting challenges, and we're ready for whatever comes next, whatever in the world that may be. Thank you, everybody.